Welcome to Medical Spa Mastermind. I'm your host, Cathy Christensen, and today's guest is the beautiful, wonderful, super talented, super kind, amazing Erin Hennessey out of Toledo, Ohio, Blush Aesthetics. Erin Hennessey is a DNP, APRN, FNP-C. She completed her doctoral training and Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Midwestern Reserve University, graduating summa cum laude with clinical rotations at Cleveland Clinic and University Hospital. She's an Ohio girl with 12 years of pediatric ICU experience treating trauma and burn patients and specialized dermatology fellowship. She now serves as a trainer for med aesthetics, educating providers across the United States. She also has multiple locations. She trains for Sciton. She's a laser genius, and she is my friend. I'm so happy to say, please welcome Erin Hennessey.
Oh,
Hey,
thank you
Erin.
so much, Cathy. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to have you on the pod. We actually had a chance to see each other, uh, 3 weeks ago when you
Three
brought your
weeks ago in
team.
Chicago. Yes,
Yeah, that
that
was
was an
really
amazing
cool.
training. Oh my gosh. The Confidence Lab, if anybody needs injectable training, my goodness, that was the best, I feel like, advanced training that we have had in a really long time, maybe ever, but in a really long time. So Rana and her crew are just top notch.
That was awesome. And we called it didn't you guys call it the sisterhood?
We called it the sisterhood training because it was all a bunch of women. It was like both of our offices together. And it felt like that too, like just through
Yes.
dinner and through the day. And everybody was very open. There was no gatekeeping. There was lots of
Yes.
honesty and vulnerability. And it was fantastic. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. It did feel very like-minded. Like everybody kind of came in and learned
Mhm.
from each other. And there was no, like, we were all in our kind of bummy scrubs and had a great
It was
time learning from
great.
each other. Yeah, exactly. Well, Erin, thank you for being here. For those who don't know you, which I'm sure are very few and far between, but tell us a little bit more about your journey. Erin is a top-notch trainer in this industry. She knows everything there is to know about laser and light and everything in between. On top of it, she's growing her own businesses. But where'd you start, Erin? Like, what made you kind of get into this world, and what do you love about it?
So I started in burn plastics, peds ICU. We attended traumas. We had a lot of burn patients because we were one of the level one trauma centers in the area, very inner city hospital called St. Vincent Mercy Medical in Toledo. And I loved my job. And I loved doing it. As I had children, though, it became much harder to do that job and to do those traumas. And it was kind of, I feel like, my message of like it's time to go back to school. So after about 12 years as an RN, I went ahead and went back to school, got my master's, got my doctorate. The doctorate wasn't really on my radar. I had an amazing professor. Gosh, I love her so much. Her name was Faye Gary. She actually just passed away recently.
Uh, I'm
I
sorry.
know all the good ones. No,
Yep. Yep.
the legacy that this woman leaves behind is amazing, and I am just grateful to be one of those people that she inspired, and that she said to me, "I really think you need to get a doctorate. I think
Okay.
that you have the type of mind that needs to go on and do different things. And I love your curiosity, and I love that you want to know the whys. And what if we found you money? What if we found you money and you can?" And I said, "Well, I mean, in that case, it's hard to say no." But she really encouraged me to continue on in that educational process. That's actually really what led me to wanting to teach, wanting to train,
Oh,
wanting to know more, wanting to teach my patients better. I think that our patients deserve everything that we can give to them. And so finishing that doctorate, finishing the fellowship in dermatology, moving on, working in plastics with the providers that I worked with in Peds ICU. They're amazing plastic surgeons. Dr. Jeff Kessler still is my collaborator. And I've known him since I was a brand new baby nurse. So that's been like 26 years. And just very supportive, very selfless man who was so kindly teaching me everything he knew. Like whatever it was I had questions about, he wanted to teach me and wanted to train me. So I feel just very lucky that I kind of fell into that type of situation. But from there, I decided I really wanted to focus on that part of my job that I really loved. And that was the aesthetic aspect of it. It was acne scar patients, surgical scar
Mm.
patients, it was burn patients, it was patients whose skin we wanted to make to look and act better. And the aging process is somewhat of a scarring process for some of us.
Uh-huh.
Like we say, like we
Uh-huh.
deal with scars, but those wrinkles that are set in that look like scars, it's very similar treatments that we're doing in that aspect. So I feel like I have a jump start where I've been doing this for 26 years and I have a lot of different, tricks in my back pocket and a lot of different tools. And so it's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful journey, and I have pulled people in along the way. A lot of the employees that work at our practice, and I don't really call them employees. It's just, they're our girls, and
Yeah.
which is probably not really professional. Like, oh, it's all the girls, but it feels very much like a sisterhood, and we all, try to take care of each other, and we count on each other. It's a great culture, but they've been kind of, I would say, um, instructed in the same ways that I was. And so we all
Uh-huh.
practice very similarly. So when folks come to the practice and they're like, I want to see you, sometimes my schedule's a little bit difficult to get into. And I'm like, you literally can see anybody here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're
Mm-hmm.
all very similar in how we approach things, how we manipulate those lasers, how we inject that very natural result. Like that's our big focus at Blush. That's a little bit different from other places. We want you to look like you never came to see us. We
Yes.
just want people to wonder why you don't age or why you're aging backwards. That's really what our goal is, hey, oh, you just look so good. Like they can't put a finger on it.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what I've built along the way. And I've been lucky enough to have amazing people, mostly female providers, who have come to me and said, I want to do this with you. And I don't know that there's a greater gift than feeling chosen like that. Like
I
I want to
love
be with
that.
you. Like I want to do this with you. So I'm always very, very grateful for those folks that come along and say, I share your passion, I share your vision. Let's do it together.
So how do you ensure, because Rana and the Confidence Bar, it's very similar. Like everyone is
Hmm.
very trained similarly. She, as you know, and
Hmm.
most people know, she's kind of turning more into education and not doing so
Yep.
much patient care. But that's been a transition that we're going through too. It's like trying to get
Yeah.
patients to understand our team is trained
Yeah.
very, but how have you done it? Is it kind of a mixture of bringing in like baby injectors and growing them, or are you bringing in a combo of experienced injectors and baby injectors? How does that work out?
That's such a good question, Kathy. That's such a good question because we're hiring right now. We actually are looking for another provider. And one of the things that they asked was, hey, do you want someone who is experienced? Like, is that absolutely necessary? Like, do we have to do that? Um, which was a good question. And I didn't have a good answer for them. I said, if they're experienced, great. But sometimes that's challenging because they bring along habits that might not associate well. For me, it's all about the person, your personality, your scientific curiosity, your willingness to be open minded, and your desire to learn. That's what it comes down to. So, whether you have zero experience or you have years of experience, as long as you're willing to be open minded and learn some of the ways that we're doing things and adjust. We had some experienced providers join us in Columbus. And I will say that no matter how experienced someone comes to us, what we've recognized and now know is that it's nowhere near the amount of training and priority that we put on it at Blush. So even if they do come trained, it's like training them all over again.
Yep.
So it's great to have a background and to know, that your hand is steady with injecting and things like that. But that doesn't mean that we cut corners with training. You're going to get the same training that we've all been through, that we've all gone through. But what I'm really looking for is that unicorn of a person that has all of those qualities, that really wants to learn and wants to do a good job for their patients too. That's not every day that you get that. You have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
folks that feel like, oh, I want to do this because I like getting these treatments. That's a
Uh-huh.
completely different situation than loving all of the background and all of the education and the anatomical awareness and all of the different things that we do to be really excellent aesthetic providers.
How do you weed those folks out? Because I think you're absolutely right. There are so many people that are not necessarily in it for the love of the game, if that's a good
Mm-hmm.
way to put
Yeah.
it. They're more
Yeah.
in it for what they can get out of it. So how do you have any like common red flags or things that you see as you're going through? Because I think a lot of people are going through the hiring process, and it's tough when you get all the way through a hiring process and you realize, maybe at that 99th day that the person is not a good fit because they are that kind of a little problematic. Can you flag that out during the hiring process?
It's really hard, but it is definitely hard to hide your bad habits for 90 days, is
Yes,
what I'll say.
agreed. Yes.
So, we make sure that, first of all, in the interview process, that we have at least one member of our clinical staff and one member of our patient care coordinator staff in on those interviews so that they can ask some questions, so that they can get a feel for this person's personality and if that's somebody that they want to work with every day. So I think they provide very interesting insight that we might not see. So I think that interview process is really important. And then bringing them on for maybe a half a day of shadowing just to see how they do. Like, are you enjoying what we're doing? Are you hearing how we work? Does that fit for you? And then having that good 90-day process. You have to have a 90-day probationary period where they're learning. They're not getting treatments necessarily. Occasionally, well, oh, we need a model. Like, you're here, great. That's wonderful, but it's not going to be a scheduled situation where, oh, I want my tox, I want my filler, I want my laser, I want all these things. That's going to be after the learning process happens. Yes, you need to be a good billboard for yourself. That's really important. But it's okay to start that after the 90-day process happens, right? And that's all right. So I think that having those 90 days is good for both us and for that potential provider. Because what if we're not a good fit? What if
Uh-huh,
they don't really
exactly.
like what we do? I
Yeah.
think it's easy to be like, I love doing these things, but to be on the other side of the chair, I think is just different. And it might not be something you like. So I love to either bring people on like part-time 2 or 3 days a week so that they continue with their other job that they're doing so that they don't step away from that. I also don't want to ruin it for somebody. Like, you're stepping away from this really good ICU job that you love to try this. And it's okay
Yes.
to come on 3 days a week and start learning and then figure out in 90 days, do I want to jump in feet first? I think
Hmm.
there can be a way that you arrange it that it's mutually beneficial.
We will be right back after these messages.
This episode is sponsored by Growth 99, the med spa industry's leading digital marketing platform. Growth 99 has helped over 1,000 aesthetic and elective wellness practices grow through powerful digital marketing. Leading practices trust Growth 99 for services including marketing automation, beautiful websites, paid media, and SEO. Visit www.growth99.com today to learn more, or click the link in our show notes.
And now, back to our episode. Awesome. So when did you open the doors to your first location? And I assume when you opened, were you a solo at the very beginning?
It was just me. It was just me and my Seitan jewel and my injectables and my dreams and my hopes and my wishes. That's all it was. It was actually 10 years ago in April.
Oh,
that
wow.
I started. Yeah, 10 years ago in
Your 10-year
April.
anniversary. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. I didn't, I guess, realize how unique that was. And thank God I didn't know all the things I know now when I started my business. Because someone eventually told me, I think after I was in business like 2 years, they were like, oh, that's really impressive. Most startup businesses close within the first 12 months, like 80%. They do? Like, I didn't know that. And thank God I didn't, because it just never occurred to me that it wouldn't work out. Like, I am an eternal optimist. And so it just never occurred to me that it wouldn't work, that people wouldn't want these amazing things that I loved. So I guess going in with a little bit of blind optimism wasn't the worst thing ever.
Yes.
But I think that when I went into it, my focus was really on patient education. I'm not a salesperson. I'm just not.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you don't
Uh-huh.
want to do it, let's not do it. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. You need more time to think about. Take all the time you need. Like, I'm not
Hmm.
rushing anybody into anything. But I think that that was the main focus. And I think as folks get more educated about what they have, what they need, then they make the choices that are best for them. And so that shared decision making has been the basis of our entire practice. And I think that's what sets us also apart from some others where it's like, oh, you need to be on this regimen of skincare for at least 2 weeks before I will touch you with anything. Like,
Uh-huh.
no, like,
Uh-huh.
you want it now, you got a time frame that let's work that out. Like, everything can be flexible. We can work with almost any
Yes.
timeline, just about, other than my daughter's getting married tomorrow while we have like a needle in there. Like, oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
within reason, we can work with any timeline, any needs, any budget. So I think just kind of helping people understand the normal aging process, the pathological aging process, what's happening in their skin, and then saying, what is your priority list? What are the things that you'd like to
Right.
see improvement in the mirror every day? And then really listening to what they say. That's the key. You really have to listen. What are they saying? Because if I see these things, but they see these things, and I only fix
Yes.
the things that I want, and their concerns still remain, I haven't done a good job. I haven't listened to
Right.
them, and I don't understand what their goals are. So I think just coming from a perspective of not doing anything that the patient doesn't need, which is something that in medicine we should be doing every day, and then
Hmm.
making sure that, again, it's that shared decision making and empowering that patient to understand what's happening and then make the decision that's best.
I love that because I feel like, listen, I'm an operations logistics person. So I love good structure. I love the idea of like time limits for appointments and things like that, just because I just love a good schedule. But I think the reality is when you put such strict kind of boxes around those
Yeah.
conversations, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that's where the listening stops and the let's just get it done because I have 15 minutes begins. Do you agree?
I agree. And we actually separate out our consults from our treatments. We can do treatment the same day, but that doesn't mean that we're going to skimp on the consults. We're going
Yes.
to give you all of that time to really sit with the information. And sometimes that appointment changes to
Yeah.
what we're going to do next. My goodness, I must drive our patient care coordinators crazy with that because it's like we have this room and this machine or these injectables like all set out, and I'm like, okay, we're blowing that up. Like, we've got something different we're doing today. So they smile and they're super kind about it, but I know, like, in the back of their mind, they got to be like, why do we even arrange anything? Like, I don't.
Each type of person needs the other type of person. That's just how you succeed in business. So I'm sure they
Absolutely.
value that and they see the value in it. So you
Yes.
said when you started out, you had your Cyton Jewel. So
Yes.
talk to me about that because so many people when they start out, like they have to build up towards a laser purchase, or I would say
Yeah.
majority of this industry starts out injectables tox. That's it. And then they grow from there. It's
Mhm.
interesting that you started. I know you're a Cyton trainer. You love Cyton, which
I
it's a wonderful
do.
company and they have the best tech, for sure. We know
Yeah.
that. Just industry has always kind of surrounded Cyton with lots of love, and it's the Porsche or the Maserati of all the lasers. But for you to start out with a jewel, with an energy device, talk to me about that. How did you do it? B, why did you do it? And C, how can other people do it?
Okay, so the reason I did it is because I was working with those devices when I was a lowly research assistant in school, and it never broke down. It was always like I wanted to be assigned to the room that had Cyton because I knew that I was going to get my hours in and I was going to get my tuition reimbursement because it never broke down. Like, it just
Uh-huh.
didn't. It was amazing. And so I was very comfortable with it. So it was my comfort zone. So when it came to open my own business, they were top of my list, but I did my due diligence. Like, I looked at other companies, and frankly, a lot of the mechanics and choreography were complicated, whereas Cytons were very simple.
Mm.
And the results were not as impressive with some of those other companies as I would have liked, or it was limiting. You have a CO2 device. I love a CO2 device, but it's limiting. You can't use it on everybody as aggressively as you might need to make the corrections that you need to correct in their skin. So I needed something that set me apart, because it was just me in a room with injectables, just like how many other people,
Right.
That's how everybody starts out.
Exactly.
So what would be different about me? Well, what was different about me is when they come in for their talks, we can also pair that with BBL. So not only are we just ironing their wrinkles, we're making their skin look and act younger. That was huge for me, because most people's issue isn't just with, oh, I have wrinkles. It's my skin looks sallow. I have brown spots. I have rosacea. I have some skin laxity. My skin looks like it's aging. All those other things that injectables can only address one aspect of, right? So being that I wanted to treat patients holistically for aging, it couldn't just be with injectables. It had to be with something else. And so the end jewel was not an option at the time, because again, this was a little over a decade ago. I think I bought the jewel like maybe 6 months before we started, because I was getting some new things on it that I needed to be trained on too, or that were the software updated and upgraded. And so I wanted to know all the things. So I was really comfortable with resurfacing and profractional, but Halo was something that we'd seen and researched, but I knew that there were some stipulations on it, and I wanted to be the best at it, frankly. I felt my patients deserved that. And so I think it came as a big surprise that I was going to, God bless my poor husband, my business partner in this. He's like, so how much does one of those cost? And I'm like, and I told him, and I said, well, why don't we sit down first? Maybe have a glass of wine. I'll tell you the price.
Yes.
And he was like,
You say
and
you
can
don't
make this
sell,
work.
Erin.
Right? I was like, listen, I promise you that I'm going to make this work. Like, I promise you, people are going to love this. And then I took him to, at the time, they were called user summits that Saiton put on. And I loved them because it was everybody in a big room, all these scientists, all these people that use the equipment, and just talking about their patients, their challenges, their successes, what settings they were using for this, the different physiology and the different pathologies that we can treat with this now, and how am I going deeper with this technology safely. And it was amazing. It was just such a fun room of scientists, and we still do that. It's just like transitioned and it's grown, and now they're called UpXs. They were rock stars and CEOs and user summits, and now they're UpXs. But I took him to one of those, and he was like, who wouldn't want this? And I'm like, right? Like, it's amazing. So luckily he saw how beneficial it could be. And it really was, I feel like, what helped us grow a little bit faster, because we were able to add on those different aspects that really dealt with the root cause of aging and dealt with the root cause of people's concerns. And so I loved starting out that way. It's not for everybody. I understand that. But I already had a great background in laser when we started this. And so it wasn't a brand new learning curve to me. And obviously I had that base in dermatology. I encourage all providers, hey, if you come from ER or a non-specialty, family practice, anesthesiology, wherever that is, you need to get a really solid education in dermatology, because you're transforming skin. And you also need a great anatomical background beyond what you got in nursing school, beyond maybe what you got even in cadavers in medical school, just face and neck anatomy. And you need to become an expert in that. And so those are the two things that I usually tell folks if they want to do this. That's my advice. First, either start with a position where it is a plastic surgery or dermatology practice, that someone who's willing to mentor you, that you can learn from, and do that for a couple years. Really get good at that job, and then that will transition you really easily. If not, you're really seeking out your own education in that, whether it's from the head and breakfast that Julie Kaplan does, or Dr. Benji and his cadaver labs. Or there's lots of different ones out there. I think it's just important to vet them well and make sure that that type of training works with your brain, and dive in, because it's not just this is a quick money making scheme. It's not. I assure you it's not. It's not just hang your shingle and buy the machine and people will just flock to you. That's not what it is. So
Yeah,
really
no,
good
it sounds
education.
like you were very intentional about what you did. And I think that's
Yes.
kind of, even if you're 5 years in and you buy a laser, if you're not intentional on buying it and how you're going to use it and how you're going to pay it
Mhm.
off and how you're, what you're bringing on and who you're training on your team and who's, if you're not intentional about what you're doing, the common complaint is it just becomes like a piece of exercise equipment that you're never using. It just kind of collects
Yeah.
dust. And
Right.
so it sounds like to me, you did all of the due diligence ahead of time and made it work for you. And not only that, I mean, kudos to you for identifying that you need that unique value proposition. I think that's more important, now than ever. I
Mhm.
recently heard from, or actually read in the Growth 99 benchmarking report that 80% of people do not differentiate from their menu from the other medical spas, which makes sense, right? They all have
Yep.
injectables, they all have this, they all have that. So then all you can differentiate is on price, which nobody really wants to do. So, how do you do that? So it sounds like you kind of went right out the gate that way. So you're at how many locations now?
So we are at two locations. We have one in
Okay.
Perrysburg and one in Columbus. So they're about 2.5 hours from each other. And we do get a lot of questions about like, how do you differ from other med spas or dermatology practices or plastic surgery practices? We differentiate on education.
Uh-huh.
We spend probably a ridiculous, to some people's opinion, a ridiculous amount of money every year on education because it is so important that everyone is incredibly safe but incredibly effective. It's great to be safe, right? We all
Yeah.
want that. That is the basement minimum
Yes,
is
the lowest
safe.
bar.
The lowest bar is safety, but that's not the bar that we want to hang out on. Like
Yeah.
we really want to be effective at what we do, and we want patients to leave and be like, that was worth the money. I always like liken it to TJ Maxx. Like, do I $50 love this sweater or do I like $500 love this sweater? We want them to be
Yes.
like, I really got my money's worth in what we were doing, and have realistic expectations, and know that when they come to us, they're getting the best.
How do you translate all of that education into like patient understanding? Like that's something that they understand that you are kind of getting this education, which is going to in turn make their experience better. Like how do you kind of market that?
That's a really good question. And we probably don't market it enough, Kathy. If I'm being really honest, we probably don't market it enough. We try to make sure, like on social media, we're posting
Yeah.
when we're training. We try to add that to our CVs each time we're doing one of these, So if you read our CVs when under training and experience, it's a really long list. But we just, we try to let patients know, hey, these are our educational backgrounds. Here is my clinical background. And here are all the different trainings we do each year to make sure that not only are we bringing you the best, but we're bringing you the safest, most up to date, most efficacious, you know,
Uh-huh.
information, training that we can. It's part of the consult. You have to credential yourself in the consult, or
Yes.
it's up to our PCCs to let folks know that call that are asking questions, hey, listen, just a little bit about our practice.
Mm-hmm.
Education is the backbone of everything that we do because we want our patients to get the best. So we make sure that we're becoming the best every
Mm-hmm.
year. We do something a little bit different every year. We focus on something. And it's one of those situations that you don't find everywhere.
That's incredible. So then how do you manage that with your team? Do you have an allotment for education or is it something that everybody can count on? And is that part of the reason you have great team loyalty?
It very well could be part of that loyalty. We do have an allotment. We have, the amount that we set aside each year for that type of training. Some things we have are mandatory for our team, and then other things we have are optional. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always say that you are only limited by your own curiosity and time frame and the amount that you want to invest in your career. And so that's really important. There's things that are absolutely mandatory that we need to learn, right? There's updates.
Yep.
There's, hey, here's the new, VO protocols. Here's what we know about research. And then there's I want to be the best. And those are two different things. And so I find that the best providers are those that invest in their own education, even aside from their employer. Like, it's not just employer driven, but they're like, ooh, I found this amazing, training that I'm going to go to in this. So sometimes it's not just us driving it. Sometimes it's them seeking out the pieces and parts of how do I feel like I can grow in this space and get better, and looking for their own training. So we provide a lot of suggestions for training as well as the mandatory training.
That's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about how you feel about competition. There are, a lot of people right now are feeling like the industry is getting saturated. I think point of differentiation that we talked about was really important. Are there other ways that you feel like people can differentiate and share it so they're not feeling so cookie cutter as they're kind of going into this point of potential saturation in the industry?
It's so interesting because when you're in the hospital or you're in private practice, as a primary care doctor or as a primary care nurse practitioner, PA, even specialty, endocrine, neurology, you don't really see the other practices in town as competition. And I think a lot of that is that most patients are not paying out of pocket for that. There's no shortage of people knocking down your door if you're a neurologist to come see you. In fact, you probably have a year-long waiting list.
Yeah.
With the med spa, dermatology, plastic surgery industry, people are choosing where they want to invest their money in themselves. And so competition becomes a little bit different, I would say. I love the providers that we have around us. We have wonderful dermatologists, and we need those dermatologists because occasionally there's something medical happening with this patient that's not cosmetically based that we need to elevate that level of care. And I love having a dermatologist right around the corner that we can call and say, hey, we're going to send someone over, and have that good relationship with them. I think professional courtesy and professional relationships are incredibly important. That doesn't mean that you need to share all of your trade secrets with that practice, but does it mean you need to treat each other like humans and be kind when you see them and not disparage each other to patients? Absolutely. I think that we can educate our patients and we can help them make those choices, but that doesn't have to include talking badly about others. We're all human and we all do really amazing work and sometimes not our best work. And if somebody goes somewhere else and maybe it wasn't our best work, or maybe it was our best work for that patient, but they had limiting factors for us, or they didn't follow instructions at home, which I'm sure patients never
ever do. Never.
But you have no idea what happened. And I tell people, I have no idea what happened in that environment, in that appointment. I can only assume that that provider was doing what they felt was the best thing at that time. That's all I can. I always assume positive intent with everything. And I think that helps direct my thought process when it comes to competitive practices. I assume whoever you saw wanted to do the best for you with the tools that they had and the training that they had and their professional judgment. Here's what I'm seeing here today, and here's how I feel I can best treat you. And those could be two different.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm seeing that too. I'm sure you are too on socials in our industry as well. That kind of like coming at you thing that's happening. I'm not sure why it's happening. I've actually talked to multiple people about this, but that it's kind of gross. And I would love for that to stop happening because we are a community. We're actually trying to work together to elevate the whole industry as a whole. And I mean, we have enough detractors outside of our industry, so we definitely need to be supporting people within it. Do you agree?
I completely agree. When I have other providers in Ohio, I make sure that we collaborate together, at least on a Facebook page or something, to share stories about, hey, the board came in today and here were the things that they wanted to know from me. And here's what I had to provide. So for everybody else, just know if the board comes, here are some things you can do now to prepare. You're not hurting anyone. And in fact, if you're doing that and you're providing that information to others, we're all elevating our practice and we're all getting safer for patients. And isn't that what we want? I tend to think about when maybe some of my patients who weren't a good fit, either personality wise or, whatever it might be with our practice, when they go somewhere else, I think about how do I want that provider to talk about me in
Yes.
that moment.
Yes.
And so I try to make sure that that's how I'm talking about those providers as well. We're all trying to do the best job we can. But if we can share information to make people safer, if we can share information on how to be compliant altogether, then the bad actors are going to become really obvious.
Yes. 100%. And that's what
So,
needs to happen.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So talk to me about, since there are so many times that we're kind of seeing each other out in the world, and you're a trainer, so you see people all the time out in the world. Talk to me about a time that you met somebody out there in the world that helped you kind of feel closer and more connected to our community.
So at the most recent Sciton UpX, it was in Seattle. This was just back in June. And I love that one of the things I get to do, and I feel so blessed to be able to do it really, is when I get invited to these types of things, I get to talk to all other providers out there. And some
Yes.
people stop me and they ask me such amazing questions. And I always say, like, please ask me all the hard questions, because what I'm going to do is put it in my notes app in my phone. And even if I don't have the answer for you, I'm going to go back and find out, because that's super interesting. Like, please challenge me, because it helps me to know more.
Yes.
But I get to have those conversations, but sometimes those conversations shift a little bit. And I had a provider who actually was a CRNA there in Seattle, and she came up to me and she said, "It was so good to see you presenting this morning on camera and doing these injections and these laser treatments." And I was with Taylor Siemens as well. She's like, "It was just so good to see you girls up there, because we see so many men up there, but it was so wonderful to see a woman doing this." And
Yes.
it didn't occur to me as much, because I do have amazing supportive men in my life, from my husband to my dad to my collaborating physician. But it is pretty heavy in men presenting. But the audience is typically the end user of these devices,
Yes.
which is probably somebody who looks like me, And so it was great to hear that they connected with us on a little bit deeper level, because it was like they could see themselves in us up there.
Love
And I
it.
loved that so much. And I got the nicest text message from a couple of folks too, just saying, "Oh my gosh, like, I so appreciate you. I love that you don't gatekeep. I love that you just put it out there and
Love
you're
it.
super honest about what you've experienced versus what you haven't, versus what you know, what you're still learning." And I'm like, I'm still learning every single day. Every single day.
Yes.
The more I'm around this, the more I practice, the more I know I don't know,
Yes.
and the more I never say never. So I just, that's never something that comes out of my mouth anymore. But to meet these wonderful women who are so dedicated to their craft and uplifting and supportive. There is a whole girls girl moment happening
Yes.
in like the
Yes.
Seattle, Bellevue, Spokane, like that whole Washington area. And I'm here for it. Like,
Yes.
I love that. As a professor at Gonzaga in Spokane, it was so good to see this, because I'm like, I am having these baby nurse practitioners go out into the world, and I feel comfortable saying they're going to be well taken care of. They're going to have colleagues that are amazing and that believe in them and want to lift them up and want to make them better. So just those little moments, I feel like sometimes just like they get your heart, and you're like,
Yes.
there's good people out there, and
Yes.
they're encouraging me. Like, God bless them. So I always say I want to see them up on stage too. Like, I want you to come up with something really cool and teach all of us about it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and it's kind of like real life, right? Get out from behind the computer, go do some trainings and community
Yeah.
networking
Yeah.
with people either in your space or in Spokane or in Alaska. Who knows?
Sure.
Just go somewhere and meet the people behind the industry. And I love that. I love that. I love
That's
that
one
for
of
you,
the
Erin.
feelings I love about training is I've been to
Yes.
Australia. I've been, other places and seen how they do things, and then I can integrate that. And so I always try to give everybody credit where credit is due. So it's so funny on my like resources. I'm like, well, this is what Tammy Shu taught me.
Yes.
And, and this is what I learned from, Dr. Smith here. And this is what I learned. And so I culminate that together with all of the things. And I'm like, I've done all this work and I'm handing it to you so that you don't have to go all those places. I'm giving you all of it. Like, please use it and go do something really super amazing and then teach us all about it.
I love that. Well, Erin, one of the things before we go, one of the things that I always ask my podcast guests is if you had a theme song right now in your life, what would it be?
Gosh. Okay. I feel like it's Nirvana's Come As You Are.
Yes. Oh,
I
my
feel like
90s
that's
girl.
it. I feel like that's it. Cause it's just, you know what? If your life is messy and you're feeling bad or you're feeling great or you're concerned or you feel like, nothing's ever going to change or, it's like, give me your hopeless, you're helpless, you're excited,
Yes.
you're optimistic, whatever it is, it's okay to feel that. It's okay to be you. Come to us.
Yes.
If you have something that you feel like we can help you with, I want to help you. Like, I promise there's no judgment. Like, we have a judgment-free zone at Blush. You can ask us anything. You can bring up any problem. Like, we're there to help you. We're there to listen. So I feel like it would be Nirvana's Come As You Are.
I love that. So as you have grown in this industry, what is well, okay, couple things. What would you tell brand new baby injector and owner Erin 10 years ago that you wish you knew then, that you knew would have made your journey a little bit easier? And then what do you feel like you did right? And then what's exciting you about this industry right now?
Okay, let's see. First question, what would I tell? What would I tell
Baby
baby?
Erin.
Gosh, I would tell her to control the controllables and
Ah,
stop worrying about things you can't control.
yes.
Just focus on what you can and then let all of those other things slip away. You don't need to lose sleep over things that you cannot control. There are just some things that are not yours to carry. So leave them behind. That's okay too.
Yes.
So I think that would be my best advice to myself.
Yes.
What was the second question, Cathy? I have
The
ADD.
second question is, what do you think you've kind of that you have done, either a behavior or a process or a something that set you apart to allow you to succeed?
I honestly think truly always assuming positive intent
Love
with
that.
everything. I never assume someone is, you know, upset with me, coming after me, doesn't like me, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like all of those things, again, I can't control those. I just always assume that someone did the best that they could with the knowledge and the tools that they had at the time. I always just assume that folks are coming in and feel like they're in a good, safe space. I think that optimism really helped me. Maybe a little bit of that, the not knowing helped me too. So
Yeah.
sometimes a little bit of ignorance is bliss. Um, but I think optimism can take you pretty far. I always say it's reasonable optimism. I'm not like, oh, everything's rainbows and butterflies when it's really not. But
Right.
trying to take the path of happiness and positivity, I think has helped a lot. Um, for sure. Absolutely. And I think what really excites me about this industry is that I'm seeing more and more folks dive deeply into the science of things and demand, not request, but demand research.
Yes.
We have so many things that are going on, and technology moves faster than research does. It simply
Yeah.
does. But I think that with having so many more DNPs in the industry, with seeing the MDs that also have MBAs and research backgrounds and
Yes.
PAs that have those terminal degrees, I always say, what are you doing with your terminal degree?
Yep.
Because what you should be doing is things that contribute to the science and to the background. Right now, we have all these peptides out there. They're
Mhm.
very exciting, but they're not FDA approved. And there's not enough studies out there for me to say confidently, yes, I believe these to be a very positive influence on our health. I don't have that. And I tell people,
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying don't do them or do them. I'm saying proceed with caution and understand that there's a lot not known. And so I'm hopeful that we'll get some more research backing and a lot of different things that are out
Yes.
there so that we can feel comfortable as providers telling our patients this is safe.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
really exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I completely agree with you. There's no reason to offer something that there's that unknown, because that can be
Yeah.
a big mistake. So, well, Erin, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you if they want to have a little bit of your optimism in their daily life?
I am frequently on, and I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I'm frequently on my Instagram page, like at least a couple times a week. And that's Erin_Blush Aesthetics. And then they can also come to our website. That's always, we're always putting stuff on there, and there's links to everything. And that one is blushnwo.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today, Erin. You're amazing, and I'm so grateful for you. You have a way of making the industry better, like with everything you touch. And I'm always just so grateful to see you and spend time with you. So thank you again for being on the pod.
Kathy, so thank you so much for inviting me. You are a bright, shining light in this industry, and I hope that you continue to bless us for a long time in it.
Oh, same with you. It'll be great to see you again. I hope I see you next time you're in Chicago. Stop by. Next time I'm in Ohio, I'm looking you up for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you soon, Erin. Bye.